Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine, and this week we're seeing some modest improvement in the Holdover striper fishery in Connecticut. We're seeing better results on cod fishing off of Block Island, and trout fishing across the region continues to dominate freshwater fishing. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
Now, before we get started, I just want to remind everybody I am doing a giveaway. I'm giving away 3 needlefish that I made. You can choose the colors. I'll paint them up for you. It's a photo contest, so I just really want you to prove that you're out there fishing in January. Doesn't matter what the species is, saltwater, freshwater, headboat, or up in the smelt camps, or a pickerel you caught on a Ned rig, whatever you got. Send me the photos. I'm going to pick my 3 favorites. I'm going to give away these needlefish. I have until the 10th, so you got, 5 more days to get it done. I think you can do it. So let's start the report off in Massachusetts. And really, the Massachusetts fishery right now is dominated by trout fishing. And you're going to hear me repeating that over and over again, because that's pretty much the dominant fishery throughout southern New England right now. Luckily, we still have a lot of open water, or at least luckily for me, because I don't do a lot of ice fishing. Cape Cod is the epicenter of that, and I'm going to start to sound like a broken record here because I feel like this is the same thing that we're saying every week, but it's the truth. A lot of great ponds out on the Cape that are producing consistent results. If you've got Peters, you've got Hamblin, you've got Mashpee Wakeby, you got all the ponds inside Nickerson State Park, and really any of the other ones that are famously stocked. You could check the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife website to see which ponds on the Cape were stocked in the fall. But really, all those stocked ponds are worth targeting. And even off Cape, you got Long Pond, you have Little Pond, you have Mary's Pond, and there are others. They all seem to be producing with pretty consistent results. And I'm hearing about them being caught in a variety of different methods. So, anything from inflated baits fished on the bottom to small jerk baits, small spoons. I'm even hearing of guys catching trout on Ned rigs, and that are intended for bass. So that's really the dominant fishery right now. It's a lot of brown trout and a lot of rainbow trout, the occasional tiger, and there's some sizable fish being taken as well. On the bass fishing side of things, there are guys targeting smallmouth and largemouth bass. It's really a finesse fishery right now. I was doing a little bit of that myself over the weekend. And, really, we were doing best with the slowest possible methods, using jerk baits and doing a really long pause, or using Ned rigs and just dragging those baits, in very small increments, but it was working. And, not only catching bass that way, we were getting bass, we got some crappie, we got some pickerel, and we got some really nice yellow perch. So, if you're into the finesse game, now's a good time to do it. And the fish are unpressured because not a lot of guys are out fishing, and it's a good time to be out there in the wintertime. And you get the lake to yourself. So a lot of fish to be caught, and you can work on your finesse tactics, because not every time of the year you get that opportunity. No saltwater news for us this week in Massachusetts. Actually, really overall, it's been trout and bass, and that's pretty much it. So that's a story that I have for you guys in Massachusetts this week. Crossing over into Rhode Island, we do have some saltwater news. The cod fishing out around Block Island seems to be getting incrementally better. Still is not a lock and load fishery, and now that the sea bass fishing is closed, that leaves only codfish and scup to be targeted right now. There's been a fair number of scup out there, so that's one thing. If you're out there jigging for cod, definitely want to bring along some bait and some smaller rigs. There's been some mackerel popping around out there as well, so if you got the sabiki rig, you may be able to cash in on a few of those. But the cod fishing is slowly getting better. Most of the boats are reporting numbers, for the day around a dozen, maybe up to 20 at the most. Should continue to get better, but the good news is that there's been some bigger fish, fish up to the 15-pound line, which is encouraging to see. Before this week, was rarely seeing fish over like 7 or 8 pounds, so that's been an encouraging thing to see. Holdover striper fishing in Rhode Island still hasn't reached its usual levels this winter. Hard to say why. Maybe because the water temperatures were warmer. Maybe those fish just never made it up into these rivers and ponds. But they are there. I am hearing about a few guys that are getting some, but overall, it just hasn't been what you'd expect, or at least what we've grown to expect over the last 5 or so years. Trout fishing in Rhode Island has been good. I did get I got a report from Lawrence Thompson, one of our readers. He sent me a few photos of some brown trout he caught in an undisclosed Rhode Island lake, and it's pretty much in line with what I've been seeing from other guys fishing Rhode Island waters for trout over the last week or so, last 2 weeks. Brown trout seem to be dominating, some solid fish, in that probably 16 to 20 inch range. And I mean, I think really the main thing is just to get out there and to try to make it happen. Those fish are there, they're active, and they're hungry. So getting yourself out there and throwing some small spoons or fishing some bait on the bottom is going to get you some fish. Bass fishing in Rhode Island, largemouth and smallmouth, pretty much the same as the Cape. It's a finesse fishing. It's a finesse fishery right now. Definitely stuff that you can leave still, you can dead stick, stuff that you can do a long pause with. It's going to give you your best results. And not fishing with anything that's too big is typically going to hook you more fish at this time of the year. And that's a story that I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. As we move over into Connecticut, striper fishing is holding on. Last week it was kind of a dip in the action in the Housatonic and the other holdover rivers. But it seems like they're coming back up again. We've got some rain and some snow coming, which typically gets them a little bit more excited. And as the water cools, they're going to start to ball up. They're going to start to congregate in some of these deeper holes. They're going to be easier to target at that point. Water temps are still pretty warm in the rivers, and that's kind of allowed these fish to do a lot more moving around than what you might be accustomed to in the first week of January if you're a regular fishing some of these striper holds. As we move into the freshwater scene, trout fishing in Connecticut is always a great option. We have some really nice rivers in Connecticut that produce fish all year long. Probably the two leaders are the Salmon River and the Farmington, but the Saugatuck is a good, Naugatuck I should say, is a good option. And Naugatuck also has salmon, just like the Shetucket. And they have both gotten recent stockings, multiple recent stockings, so that is a viable option if you're looking for salmon. Any one of the lakes that's gotten a fall stocking is a viable option right now. And trout are active in the wintertime. I've said it twice now in this report, but this is a great time to go out and target trout. And Connecticut probably has the best trout fishery in New England, in my opinion. Seem to be bigger fish. There's a bigger variety of fish species, and and it's got those rivers that just produce and produce, and then you also have the trout management areas where the state works really hard to keep those fisheries viable throughout the winter. So you have a lot of options if you're a trout guy in Connecticut. Bass fishing in Connecticut, I haven't heard any reports this week, but I mean, it's safe to assume that if you have a bass pond that you like in Connecticut and you don't mind doing the finesse game, you're going to catch some fish. And that's the story that I have for you guys in Connecticut this week. I know the reports are short. It's wintertime. A lot of reports coming in. But if you're out there and you got a report, pass it along. Send it over to me at danderson@thefisherman.com. Be glad to feature you in your photo in next week's report. And don't forget, if you get a fish of any species this week, doesn't matter how big it is, try to take a nice photo of it, send it to me. You're going to get yourself a chance to win a nice plug that I made. And, hopefully I'll hear from more of you guys next week. We've gotten a few good entries so far, but there's definitely no clear winner. If you're not a subscriber to the Fisherman magazine, I highly recommend heading over to the website, checking out what we've got to offer. We have reports that cover the entire coast from Delaware up to Maine. We have articles that tell you how and where to fish all throughout that region, and so much more. Videos, we're working on some podcast stuff. You're going to see a lot of new stuff coming from us in 2022. So at the very least, give me a like here on YouTube. Hit that little button down there so you get a notification every time we post something new, and subscribe to the channel. And remember also, you don't have to watch this video if you want to get the fishing news. You can go on iTunes or wherever else you get your podcasts, search for the Fisherman magazine, and you can tap and click your way in from there. You can hear my bassy voice wherever you are and find out what's happening on the New England fishing scene. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you guys next week.
Steigercraft boats, built by people who fish our waters. Serious anglers choose Steigercraft for their 40 years of boat building experience right here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Visit steigercraft.com for a dealer near you.